We are straight up 9 o'clock Pacific time. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Ben Coffey. I'm the HydroPoint training manager, and I have with me today my friend John Walker from the University of Utah. Say hi to everybody, John.
Hey, everybody.
And we are today going to, it doesn't help if I just open it on my computer. I have to actually share my screen here. So today's topic of conversation is smart controllers in a post-COVID-19 world. And I will put this awesome shot of your campus. I'm excited to hopefully see progress in the fight against COVID. We're not going to tune in today to talk about how everybody is in quarantine and what the world looks like now, but what we're moving toward, right? Hopefully we can put this stuff in the rearview mirror. But I think that this time has taught us a number of great things, and there are some things that we're going to carry over, right? And even after COVID is not our daily reality, there's stuff that COVID taught us that are valuable lessons that will change the way that our processes work. And I think that smart controllers is a great example of that. And so what we want to talk about today is how John has been using the smart controller technology, the WeatherTrack technology, to better manage his sites, better manage his people, better manage his water management project, and what features he started using during this time that made it easier, that made this coordinated effort more efficient, and stuff that you're going to carry forward. So with that, I want to kind of bounce it over to you, John. We'll start with, when you think about your management over this last season, what are the things that WeatherTrack made easier in the new reality?
Yeah, so going into the summer, we had a lot of restrictions with the university, and for a while they actually put us on a split schedule. So we had administrative paid leave for half my staff on 1 week, and then the other half of my staff on the other week. So really, I mean, we were basically running at half the people that I should have. But with the WeatherTrack, it made it a lot easier, because the people, my employees, when they were home, they were still able to get some work done. They were still able to work on their maps. They were able to check their systems, check alerts. All of my irrigation techs have iPads that they carry around with them, so they were able to take those home and still get a little bit of work done, even when we were not supposed to be working. So that helped a lot. And then one thing that, as we were going through the summer, that came up, being able to get the alerts even when we weren't on campus, that was really helpful. I actually had we have construction all over campus. I guess all the contractors decided that since we didn't have any students on campus, now is a great time to get a lot of work done. And we just have buildings going up everywhere, and a lot of little projects going on. But with that, when we did have irrigation going, anything that interfered with their stuff, we could quickly shut it down without having to be on campus, without having to be there on site to shut it off. And then also we had a couple contractors that, as they were going through and digging, they hit control wires and power wires going to the controllers, and we would get those alerts that would pop up. That was really helpful, actually. It saved us a lot, because, you know, in the past, if they hit the power wire to the controller and the controller shut down, if we're not on campus, we may not see it for a while, and it could be a couple days or a week before we figure out that it's not watering. With this, you know, within a couple hours, we had an alert that they hit the wires and the controller was offline. I was able to call the contractor up, the project manager, and get that resolved pretty quickly. So it's nice having that technology that we can work remotely and still actually be able to get quite a bit done.
Yeah, one of my friends, a commercial site manager at, in fact, the big mall in Sandy, the Sandy Town Center, gave us a testimonial to that exact point, right? It wasn't his power wires that his contractors were hitting, but during the winter months, his contractors were hitting the irrigation wires. And as you well know, if that had gone until spring, no one would have any idea where the construction happened that hit those wires, and it would be a huge undertaking to try and stay on top of that and go back and find it and trace those wires. But because he's getting that timely information, even when the systems aren't watering, he's watching his alerts and he sees that there are issues, he can very quickly backtrack and look for the fresh tracks, right? Figure out exactly what happened and where and what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, the alerts have been huge for us. They've been a lifesaver.
So that's one thing I did want to highlight. So one thing we always like to do on my Water Nerd show is demo this stuff and show exactly what you're doing. So the other water nerds out there can follow in your footsteps. So what I want to do real quick is just walk through some of the alert tools that you use to help manage those sites, right? Some of the things that we've already talked about. So one thing that you mentioned was this alert list. And the advantage of central control and the advantage of the WeatherTrack system is having all of the information right there at your fingertips. So we can go in here and see not just one controller at a time, but a hierarchy of all of the alerts and be able to just sift through, right? And you as a manager use this as well as, or not only to analyze your systems, but help track your guys and help see what all of your teams are up to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, if you want to click on the home tab, that's usually where I start.
Okay. Sure.
That one's just a nice overview of everything that's going on. If you scroll down a little bit, I have my account summary. I have all the major alerts. You're going to show everything that I need my guys to work on now. All my valve shorts and flow alerts. But yeah, it's a really nice overview to see, where everything is, how many controllers we have winterized, what's still on, any issues that we have. It's a really nice overview. So I check this one daily, that I just hop into it and just kind of get a good overview of what's going on. And then if you go back to the alerts, I actually have it. Yeah. So I guess you could go to the alerts list. On the alert setup, I have it set up where I have an email that goes out to me every Monday.
Okay.
And that just sends an email of all the major alerts that need attention. So I get that every Monday morning.
And that's a scheduled report, correct? Not on this alert setup. So
sorry, you're right. That's a scheduled report.
This is one of the things we wanted to do because I think this is a drastically underutilized feature on the WeatherTrack. So what I think is a great management advantage is the ability to not only find a report that you'd like, we have killer data in the WeatherTrack system, but then what John does is he comes in and he says, I want this multi-controller alert report for all of my controllers. And then instead of having it automatically generate right now in either PDF or Excel form, and the reason I don't do this as a live demo very much is because you do have to watch the spinning wheel a little bit, but especially with 200 controllers. But we'll hit the subscribe button. And what WeatherTrack does is it goes in and it says, all right, I understand the report that you're looking for, right? Now, as soon as it saves through, it will push that report aside and you'll set up the report subscription so that WeatherTrack can automatically generate this report and deliver it to your inbox so that you don't have to log in. This is what you're looking at, right, John?
Yep, exactly. And I just have it set up so I get it once a week, every Monday.
You come in here and you say Monday at 8 a.m. or whatever it is.
Yep.
I want this report to automatically generate, come to it will automatically default to your inbox, but you can CC. So you can carbon copy folks on this report. Another site manager down at Fort Carson down in Colorado Springs, the guy in your position who oversees everybody, he does one report for himself, but then he sets up every tech with their own report, and he CCs each tech, each field maintenance guy on his active alerts, the things that he has to do. So, and then this is something that automatically generates again, right? So there's no calories set up. It's just in your inbox on Monday morning when you show up, and you don't even have to log in to get that.
Yeah, and it's super helpful too, because then I can just do a quick overview, see what's going on. Like you were saying, I also have it CC'd to my irrigation team lead, and then my irrigation tech specialist, who's kind of he's my water manager, I guess, for WeatherTrack. So they both get copies of it. And then if I have any questions, they already have the copy of it. So I can just send a quick email to them, say, hey, what's going on with this, page, whatever. And they can take a look at it, and it's been really easy.
Yeah, that clear, transparent information makes communication so much easier. So I love that you're using this, and that's one thing I definitely wanted to highlight. So I will give it back to you. I didn't mean to take it away from you.
No, you're good.
So do you want to go back to the alert setup page? Where do you want me to go?
I think we're good on alerts, because that
Okay.
kind of covers it. For me, I'm not as micromanaging of the irrigation techs. I leave that up to more of my irrigation crew lead. So I'm just kind of doing a quick overview with it, just to see how we're doing, see how many controllers are offline, or how many valve no connects, and just kind of get a general sense of what the guys are doing out there.
Well, I like that too, though. I like that conversation that the information that you're looking at doesn't necessarily live with you, right? The guys
Right.
all the way through the system have access to this. They know what they're responsible for. So it lightens the burden of management because there's such easy access to all of this data.
Yeah, and it's very visible too, which is nice. They'll get their alerts daily, what they need to fix, what they have in their queue. But yeah, it's pretty transparent that I can easily get in there and check it out and see how they're doing if I really wanted to.
That's great. And then the other thing we wanted to show off, the reason I loaded up your campus is so I could show off this beautiful map. So
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned that your guys are doing is this mapping project for getting all this stuff mapped out. Tell me what you're doing there.
Yeah, so we had most of our controllers installed last summer, and so we've still been going through the process of getting everything mapped out, and we're working with our GIS department. We have fairly good maps from the past, so now we're just kind of going through and getting that all transferred over to WeatherTrack. Again, having the guys a week off, where they're not coming into work, but they can still get in here and add some assets and really, fill out that map. If you pull down a little bit.
Yeah, where did I find it?
A little bit south, a little bit west.
Okay.
A little bit more. Keep going south.
Keep going. There it is. Nope.
Almost there. Now pull to the west.
Let me there we go.
Oh, you're so close. It's right there.
Now we'll zoom in.
Yeah. So that's the area that my irrigation tech for athletics, he's been working on that one.
There we go.
And it's nice because he knows where most of the valves are from working on it for a couple summers already. So even if he's sitting at home, he can still be tagging all his assets. And with the Google Maps, it's pretty easy too, because a lot of times you can see the valve boxes on Google Maps and you can see where everything is. So you just drop that tag there.
Yeah. And so what I like about the Google Maps is you've done such a great job at adding these pins, right? I love the logic that adds them up. It doesn't clutter your view. When you back out, you can see underneath this pin, there's 7 pins. So as I zoom in, you can see those pins spread out and see what the actual assets are. But in this little cluster, there's a bunch of different things that you manage, a bunch of different assets, valves, looks like a isolation valve in here, right? A couple of controllers in this view.
Yeah, that it's actually been really helpful too, because especially in that area, we have a lot of events down there. And if they bring in tents and they want to set up water barrels to hold the tents down, they're always asking where the hose bibs are. That's an easy map to pull up, and then you just filter out so you can just see the hose bibs, print that map out for them, and then they have a really good idea of where the hose bibs are, where they can fill up water barrels, whatever they need to do.
So that feature that you're talking about is just right here, right? I can go in and I can just make these. Oh, it's on the, which controller am I looking at? It's the athletic.
You're on 43, I think.
Oh, 43. So is that, if I make those stations go in? Nope.
Yeah, 45 maybe.
45. So 45, you can 46. Control the view. Nope. I bet it's 46. This one. 46?
Yeah.
There we go. Where did I go?
Right. Yeah, right there.
Expand it.
Oh, maybe it's not.
These guys. Well, you can just, what we're talking about is the ability to filter out pins, to control the map view so you can only show exactly what you want to show. You can show your isolation valves. You can show your valves for a particular controller. Now, admittedly, what you have going on here is more than what most people face, right? Your campus is much larger than many sites that my users are going to be managing. Most of my users have 1, maybe 2 controllers, not what you are managing, like 200 almost. Is that right?
It's 180.
180,
I think we have now.
And so it's important to not bombard every map with every pin, right? So we can come in here and to have a useful tool that directs people in the right places and shows what you want it to show. We can filter out the icons. We can filter out anything that's not supposed to be on that map, and then zoom in on things that are.
Yep.
Another thing that I think that this promotes is in that COVID world is personal management, right? There's not a whole lot of cross-contamination. Everything that you do is on your own device with your own set of tools, right? You can point people to the right direction without having to walk them there. You can give them the features and the access that they need to manage or fix or whatever without physically exchanging germs, right? And touching the same surfaces. And
well, and the nice thing too is, because we are working on, half of my people in 1 week and half the other week, we're having to split areas. So we have some employees, some of my irrigation techs, that are covering areas that they haven't been in very often. So having that map and having the assets all mapped out, if they're looking for a valve box, it's on the map, it's marked. They just have to, find the tag, see where it is on the GPS, and then they can basically go directly to it. We've had a hiring freeze over the winter, but I actually was able to get 1 employee hired on. So I'll have a new irrigation tech coming in. And again, same thing. Everything's already marked for her area. So when she comes in, I just have to hand her an iPad, say, here's your alerts, click on those, go find them in the landscape and have fun. So it makes it really easy having that technology to back everything up, and have everything on an interactive map like that is really helpful, moving employees around to areas that they're not familiar with.
That is another great point about the mapping, right? The turnover and the training of new employees. In the contractor world, it's a revolving door of people touching these controllers, and to have that asset map is reducing the learning curve. Those are valuable hours spent not hunting down where those valve boxes are again and again, right? Every individual irrigation tech doesn't need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to these systems. There's some institutional knowledge that gets stored that can then benefit new employees or contractors or folks that may not be the daily managers of these systems.
Yeah, it's been super helpful, honestly. Being so shorthanded and having to move people around, it definitely helps having that technology to back it up.
And then one of the things that I would like to hear is how WeatherTrack helps you in that being shorthanded, right? Like what sort of efficiencies are you finding using smart controllers or central control?
I think that for us kind of goes back to the alerts. It's just been really helpful having those alerts. You know, if we can't get everywhere every day anymore because we don't have enough employees to cover everything, having those alerts and kind of prioritizing based on those, you know, we can still drive through the area a couple times a week, but if we miss something and it goes for a couple weeks, we could cause some damage to the landscape. But having those alerts really helps us prioritize. You know, if we have a valve no connect or a controller offline, we get those alerts pretty quickly.
Another thing that I think of is the mobile app and how that whenever field efficiency comes up, I think the mobile app is a great example of how that smart controller really makes that individual tech more efficient, right? It saves a ton of time while they're doing their job. What kind of tools other than the alerts do you have on the mobile app that is making those guys more efficient?
Yeah, so having their own iPads, it makes it a lot easier because they don't have to come into the office. They don't have to check the computers. They can be driving around in their truck, you know, just turning stuff on, checking things as they go through. With the app, the update with the multiple stations now has been nice because they can turn on a couple stations at a time, drive through their area, see how things are looking. You know, if something looks like it's stressed a little bit, something doesn't look quite right, they can turn on those stations as they're walking through the area, and just, you know, double check everything. And it helps a lot having that right on the iPad, that app in their hand.
And huge in that COVID conversation is not having to come into the office, right?
Right.
Having that full transparency, keeping people fully informed and fully moving, fully managed without ever having to sit in the same room or go into those possibly contaminated areas, right? It just keeps everybody separated and healthy.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of times they'll just kind of walk through the building as they're coming in, check in the morning, and then they're out in their truck and they're off. So they're not around very much, which is management wise for COVID is good because then we're not exposing a lot of people, and they can get everything done from their truck that they need to.
That's great. Let's see what else we talked yesterday about. I just made a quick little reminder of the stuff that we talked about yesterday in our pre-production meeting. Let me see, bring this back up. I only have one slide that I made. See, I made it not smart water management, but safe water management, right?
Nice.
We're all about the safety in this episode. So we talked about features for managing the irrigation systems. The first and foremost is the alerts and the access to good real-time information, right? Managing personnel, and we talked about equal access, giving everybody their own information so they know how to manage themselves and require less management from the one system administrator, right, that you see in other system setups. And then one thing that we brought up yesterday in our conversation was that metric for success. What are we using to measure our smart controller success? What are your spoken goals? What are the things that you are looking at to say whether this is successful or not?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, a lot of the reason that we went to WeatherTrack is the water savings and the visibility of everything. So when I get those alerts, when I get the reports that I do, I can look at it and I can see how things are watering and how much water we're using in specific areas. Um, Again, having just installed this within the last couple of years, we're still working on getting flow sensors working correctly.
Mhm.
But that's kind of the goal for the future is as we go through, we get flow sensors working, we get all our OptiFlow set up. And then that just makes that even more visible, so we can see how much water we're using, where we're using it, and then kind of start looking at why we're using it there. What can we do better?
So when I talk to other users like yourselves, mostly cities and stuff, they speak of this same progression toward water management, right? They get the smart controllers in, and flow is generally another phase, another step in the project. They don't get that all done at once.
Right.
Another key step in that is the ET management, right? And getting everything dialed in, running on automated by WeatherTrack. How are you guys doing on, like, what percentage would you say of your controllers are dialed in on ET?
Right now, we're about 90%
Wow,
running off of ET right now.
that's
And
great.
and that's been easy too because I have 7, well, after I hire them on, I'll have 8 irrigation techs that cover the campus, and they kind of manage their own ET, which has really been easy for us. They can get in, they can tweak their settings. We've done trainings with them so that they can have an idea of what they need to change, why they need to change it. And then we just kind of go through and double check their work and make sure everything's looking good.
Nice.
But
And then
it's
what percentage would you say are flow dialed in? Like, how many of your controllers, what are have the flow sensor already in and running at full capacity?
um we probably have about 80% that have the flow sensor in, but not all of those are working correctly. I think we're probably only about maybe 60% of those that are actually functioning well. Um, and that's kind of tweaks on our end that we need to make, and some of the wiring that's corroded, that just general flow sensor stuff that we were having issues with. But
Yeah.
that's
And that, I think, is important for people to understand, right? It's a process. It isn't magic. It doesn't happen overnight. You guys are touting great success. I've seen the savings numbers, and I'm really proud of the work that you guys are doing and the water that you're saving. But again, it's not magic. It is work. It is a whole phased approach that will take you from where you were to what safe and smart water management looks like. So I love it.
yeah, yeah. And I think I just saw that in the Q&A, the question from Antonia. I think the main challenge for water sensor or for flow sensors, well, it's kind of twofold because it's kind of the hardware we have. Our flow sensors were installed probably about 10 years ago. So there is some upkeep and maintenance with those. We get the wires that corrode, and the flow sensors that will get stuff stuck in them. For what a lot of what we're doing, it's kind of getting the OptiFlow fine tuned. Some of our bigger flow sensors, where we have 3-4 inch main lines, it's harder for them to get the detail to get down to a 2 or 3 gallon a minute drip zone. So it's kind of it's that figuring out how to work around those little drip zones while we can still monitor the bigger 40-50 gallon a minute stations that we have. So I think that's been the biggest challenge for flow sensors is kind of getting that OptiFlow tuned in.
Dialing it in, ironing out the wrinkles.
Yeah.
It makes sense. That's awesome. All right, we are running up against time here, John. So as the second time guest, I have a question for all second time guests. For all the first timers, I remember your answer for what does WeatherTrack save you? This time we're gonna do what is your favorite WeatherTrack feature?
I think, and I was kind of going back and forth on this answer because I like getting the alerts, but I don't feel like I have to micromanage my staff as much. So the alerts are helpful just to get an overview. But I really think that my favorite feature right now is the mapping. Having everything on a map on GPS, it makes it so easy. And when my irrigation techs can put notes in that, and they can say, you know, this valve has been having issues for whatever reason, that whole mapping and asset site management has been really helpful to us.
That's awesome. You'll be happy to know that your friend Brady Pitcher had the same answer. So
Nice.
that seems to be popular. All right. Well, we have another chat. We have another question. Oh, that was just Tony saying thank you. Tony is a great trainer that I love that she tunes in. She runs the Bilingual Training Institute out of California. So once again, John Walker, you are a rock star. Thanks for coming on and joining us this week. I'm going to tout what we got going on next week, and then we will wrap this thing up. So if I share my screen here, I have next week. I realized I hadn't done anything on 2-wire. So we're going to start a conversation about 2-wire that will continue to have. There's a lot of little subjects in the world of 2-wire, but we thought we would start with the conversation about why 2-wire, right? What would make someone choose a 2-wire system over a conventional wire system, and kind of what are the differences, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each. And we have a great irrigation designer out of Lehigh. Russ Jacobson is a designer that I've been working with for years. I've been seeing him at the annual sprinkler supply events, and so Russ is a good egg, and will join us next week to talk about the design elements of 2-wire and the advantage that 2-wire has on kind of a design front. So looking forward to that. We'll be here next week for that. And in the meantime, thanks everybody for making time this morning. Appreciate you continuing to tune in, and look forward to bringing you more content next week and into the new year. John, thank you. And do you want to take us out? Say goodbye?
Sure. I'll just say thank you, Ben, for having me on, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Outstanding. Thanks everyone. Have a good day.